The Arrogant History of White Ben by Clemence Dane, Chapter 19. White Ben is out of hand. The house was shut up for the night, and Ben, confronted by the locking apparatuses of the front door, at once began to gibber. A trap with an iron bolt and a bar with a chain dangling from it. He had seen old George set such a trap outside the chicken coops. The rat had been caught in it, held in a vice, its mouth gaping to the sky. Serve it right, old George said so. But Ben had felt terror and pity until old George said so, and downright horror when the gardener flung down the emptied trap near his own stump foot. The smell of the dead rat had lingered on the iron for a dozen miserable hours, annihilating the scent of the campions. Now here again, confronting him, was a bolt, an iron catch, and a dangling chain. Panic took him. He did not wait for Illico. At that moment, descending the stairs on tiptoe, but headed for the open air glimmering at the other end of the darkened hall, he was stopped on his way out by panes of glass. Another trap. Clenching his hands, he smashed his way through the second curiously brittle trap. "You'll rouse the house!" came Illico's screeching whisper behind him, but Ben crashed on out over the broken splinters and hurried away down the terrace in long, limping strides. He wanted to get away from Illico, who was part of the house and the trap. At last, with intense relief, he stilled the echoes of his own stump feet on the grass of the lawn, brisk now with dew, easeful grass, calming dew. He dropped on his knees and swept his hands to and fro in a semicircle, skimming the dew off the grass blades, then clapped his filled, dripping palms and fingers, flecked with grass mowings, upon his turnip skin, lank hair, and big crooked lips. I need it! Cried Ben, gathering and dabbling anew. Then, as Illico, angry and apprehensive, came up with him, he rose to his feet with a sigh of satisfaction. God, I needed that, repeated Ben, and added generously, Have some? Illico gave him a long look, glanced rapidly and furtively over his shoulder at the sleeping house, looked at Ben again, and struggled for speech. Then, after these notable efforts, he said nothing at all. The refreshment, on the other hand, had made Ben talkative, and flinging his angular arm round Illico's neck, he hurried down the long lawn, gabbling at a great rate. Occasionally, in jolly inadvertence, he pushed him off the green curb into the violas which edged the herbaceous border. He was a great deal taller than Illico, and though he leaned heavily on Illico's plump shoulders, he still had to bend down. Illico, less luckily, had to tilt his face upwards and sideways. For the first time in a long history of tight places, he was unable to wriggle free. Ben's weight was considerable and his pressure bony, but Illico could not shake off either, because Ben's dangerous fingers were locked about his neck, and he was obliged to proceed at a lurch. Perpetually 6 inches ahead the countenance of his leader lurched with him, a formidable moon countenance which had forsaken the sky path to progress eccentrically upon Illico's earth. Moreover, Illico, who had certainly talked his fill in the last hour, was now obliged to listen and restrain himself while his leader babbled. For the open air was making Ben drowsy, and after a day of continuous intellectual activity, the muscles of his mind were too exhausted to control the thoughts, ideas, memories, and parrot phrases which bubbled up in him. Every garment he wore had to have its say, particularly Edgar's white dinner jacket, and so for the next 10 minutes of his progress to immortality, Ben walked like a sleeper and talked in his sleep on the subject closest to his mandrake heart. The crows must go, said Ben. That's agreed, said Illico, bored. The only good crow, said Ben, heaving Illico into a bush of berbers, is a dead crow, dead to all, forever dead. The churchyard mould dents overhead, and I will tell you why, said Ben, plucking Illico out again and himself slipping on a puffball. Crows do not seek their meat from God. Ravens say that they do. Believe them not. They eat entrails. I will relate to you the history of 2 ravens, Hugin and Munnin, thought and memory. They sat on a god's shoulders and whispered in his ear, I fear me for Hugin, lest he come not back, but much more for Munnin. Now where did I read that? They infected their god with their filthy wisdom, and the god died on Wednesday. Since then, they have come down in the world. They peck the eyes of sheep nowadays instead of kings. Never forget that all the Corvus tribe pluck out eyes. It is a known fact. Out, out, vile jelly. That is crow nature. Excuse me. What has that fool Trelawney been giving him? Firewater? Said Illico to himself. The crow line of talk is a very good one, yes, but why keep it up with me? He must be as drunk as a lord. Good thing Peddle's meeting us, thought Illico, as he composed his face to a look of injured candor, and tried to prevent his eyes from actually meeting Ben's when he answered. What are you talking about? I'm only frightened of being late. This path's too narrow to walk abreast, and with that, Illico did manage to wrench his arm free as he went on soothingly. Where do you pick it all up, eh? Pick up? Call me a jackdaw, cried Ben indignantly. My dear Ben, don't be so touchy. I merely meant, how do you know so much about rooks and ravens and so forth? What have they done to you? I mean, a fellow can't seriously hate a crow. Why not? Well, it's like saying twice two makes an orange. Oranges do not grow in England, but even if they were apples, why not hate a crow if he plunders your field? I have nothing against a crow if he keeps off my hilltop, but he will not. He stopped suddenly. His entire aspect changed. He quivered with excitement. Look, do you see them? Traffic lights! And he pointed at the parsley bed. In it shone 2 green circles, startlingly bright, but illuminating nothing. Only a cat, said Illico. No, too small, glowworms. Oh, come on, cried Illico, and hustled him across the lane to the big gate opposite. And Illico was preparing to vault the scarcely seen bars when the whole structure swung open, and Trelawney's voice spoke out from the hawthorn shadow. All ready and waiting, sir. Don't mind me coming along. Peddle gave me the tip. This way, sir. 1 or 2 of us have come down to help, arson or no arson, an elderly voice said. Secession night? Why not? There were some laughs and a giggle as Ben and Illico emerged into the open field. Across it, Peddle came running. All okay, sir. He took possession of Ben and began to walk him forward ahead of the others. But we don't need rifles, sir. We forgot. It's long past nesting time. There'll be a sizable lot roosting casual-like when there was a sizable lot roosting casual-like when I turned up. But quiet as I moved, I scared 'em. Sorry, sir, but the nest is still there. Not for long, said Ben, staring at the rookery. It was still half a field away, and it looked an entity, an armored tank, a church, something which would defend itself till taken by assault. What kind of trees? Said Ben. Firs. They will burn well, said Ben, and added startlingly, for the night was very quiet. Ha! Ha ha, said Ben. They will have no homes now. And he went on laughing till Illico called to him to know what the joke was. And that's the end of chapter 19.